Hello, everyone. I made a mistake. Instead of pushing the record button, I pushed the pause button. So you got to miss the first 2 minutes of our conversation of Meet the Founders. And so we're going to transition into the conversation, but it's going to seem a little choppy. My bad. But we're human. And so I'll just start with I'm Raquel Williams. I'm one of the three co-founders of Revive and Reset. And I'm happy that you're here to listen and learn more about our program.
Hi, and my name is Patty Morales or Patricia, and I'm an LCSW, and I'm one of the co-founders here at Revive and Reset.
And hi, I'm Flor Yousefian-Tarani, also co-founder, licensed marriage and family therapist, and you'll hear more about us in just a minute.
Sorry about that, Patty. Didn't mean to cut you off there. I'm glad you started talking about just your, from your origins. I am one of four girls. I'm the second. And first generation, my parents both from Mexico came here, got married here in the United States, California, born and raised in California. And they worked really, really hard to give us what we have. They were definitely modeled for us hard work, responsibility, and resiliency. My parents worked opposite schedules so that there was always someone home with us. And so that's what I grew up seeing, just a lot of hard work, a lot of accountability, being responsible. Um, and I remember having we weren't wealthy, but we had enough. We always had enough. And school was really important to them. I never knew we had another option other than go to school, get your education, and then get into a career. But my parents, working as hard as they did, came with a lot of sacrifices for us, which meant we spent, remember, they worked opposite schedules. So that meant that when they were home, they were resting. They did their best to take care of us, but they pretty much, had to sleep so they could go to work the next day. And the four of us were left kind of to play on our own. Being the second, my oldest sister really gravitated to my younger sisters. And so they kind of had their own thing going on. And I spent more time being by myself or reading or playing by myself. And so I think that really shaped who I am today, where I learned to do a lot of things on my own and seek out connection from women because I wasn't really connected to my three other sisters. They had their own thing, their own personalities. And so I know for sure that has been a big drive for me in finding community and finding females that I could connect with in a kind and loving way. Not to say my family isn't kind and loving. It just didn't relate. It wasn't the same. And so I know for sure my family of origin has a lot to do with how I show up right now in my communities.
And I'll jump in here. Hi, to those of you who don't know me, I'm Flor Yousefian-Tarani. I just go by Flor because that's a lot, it's a lot of name. I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist, and I do have my doctorate in marriage and family therapy. So just jumping into the origins conversation, I'm the youngest of three, and I think I was the happy accident because there's a 10-year gap between me and my oldest sibling, and then nine between me and my other sibling. So for me, I was always showered with a lot of love because the baby just gets a lot of love. But I was also an only child because for a majority of my life, my siblings were going through their significant life, transitions, and I was just kind of left on my own and didn't really have any cousins or other family that were of similar age. So I think what has really been my motto or driver is I just run my own race. And that's just what it's been my whole life. And I think people see that as overachieving, but I'm not comparing myself to anything. I'm just running my own race. And I think one of the things that I wish could have been different in my race is to have the supporters on the sideline um, rooting me on in that race, right? And I think one of the significant life events that probably shaped me from very early on is I was probably 16 years old, volunteering in a hospital, and I was working in the gift shop. And the owner of the gift shop was a woman, and it was the weekend. She had something to do, and she had to either close the store or have me manage the store. And I was like, this teenage kid, scared. I was like, what if I do something wrong? What if something goes wrong? And I didn't have anyone by my side to say, you're going to be fine. You're going to be okay. Just do it. It's going to be okay. And so I had to make that decision. And I said, look, I'm sorry, I can't. And so she had to close the store for the weekend because I wasn't willing to step into that role. But I wish if I had had that cheering section, that said, you can do this, that rooted for me and said, hey, you've been doing these things. It's okay. You're going to be fine. I think I would have done it. But that moment is what shaped all the other opportunities that came my way, even till today, where I step into something like, oh my gosh, can I do it? I don't know. And one of the things that draws me to Revive and Reset is the community that I always wish I had around me, is what we're trying to create, is that community to push you to step into that space that might be scary, but to let you know that you can do it. And so I want to give what I wish I had when I was younger, but also create that for myself, because that's how I see everyone that comes to these meetings is us really just pushing each other and rooting each other on. And that's really what keeps me going in this is that. So
Lauren,
And
did
one
you?
of the one of the things that I'll tell you, kind of following up with you, Laura, that I remember reading this book. It was called The Shoe Shine Girl, and it's a very small book. And many of you guys know that I'm not a reader, so I'm not gonna sit here and say I'm always reading. But that book caught my attention, and that kind of was more about like how this little girl was going on vacation her with extended family, and to make money, she had to learn how to shine shoes. And I remember because I'm the oldest, so coming to the US and becoming the parentified child, because both of my parents were working at the same time, I knew that I had to be that person to be the role model and setting the expectation for my siblings. And sometimes I never thought about it, but until I got into this field and I did a little bit of work, it's like that was a lot of pressure that was put on me at a young age. So when sometimes people ask me, how do people see you or things like that, I always tell them when I came to this country, I had to learn to survive. I had to learn to kind of fight my way through. And that's why sometimes, yes, I might be very outspoken. Sometimes I might be um very feisty. Like one of my friends, he always tells me you're a spicy Latina. Um, because he goes, you don't let anybody silence you. So I think that's part of the thing that, being the oldest, having to be the voice sometimes for others, is kind of what has shaped a lot of who I am. And I do not apologize for it. Like I said earlier, like if people like me, accept me, this is what they're getting. And if they can handle me, they can always walk away. So thank you, ladies,
Yes,
for accepting me.
you do
of
have a
course
lot
we
of,
love you, Patty.
I like
Huh?
spicy, I like spicy things.
I want to go back to what you said, Flora, because I think it's important when you're saying if I wish I had some support earlier on, would have probably taken different opportunities. Is that a knowing now, or did you know then that you needed support?
No, it's something I learned a lot later. I think maybe just stepping into this field, I had some time to reflect on all the other experiences. Like I can tell you so many of them, right? Like when I turned 18, I worked at John's Incredible Pizza, if y'all know John's. And
Yes.
I started as the greeter, so I would open the door and welcome you into the restaurant. But they gave me the opportunity to promote to a red cap, which was a big thing. We had these ugly like purple caps or whatever, and the red cap was the one who worked the register and like handled all the things. And I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. And so I didn't take it. I didn't take the opportunity, and all it was working a register. So it's like when I got to this point, I reflected back on all these moments in my life where I could have stepped into something that was bigger and better, and I got in my own way, my fears, my doubts. But I think if I had that cheering section in the back saying, hey, it's just pushing buttons on a screen, you're fine, you're gonna be okay, maybe I would have done it, right? So yeah, it was definitely a reflection that came much later in life and
Yeah.
continues. It's still something I'm
Yeah.
working on. Every new opportunity and role that I step into, this monster comes back and says, "Can you do this? You sure? You sure you can do this?"
Yeah.
And I just gotta you gotta jump. And once you're off that cliff, like you know what? You're in it. There's no changing your mind. So I just gotta close my eyes and jump. So
Kind of had a more experience like Patty, where I, even though I wasn't the oldest, as second, I was kind of like the person that took the lead from the beginning. And my parents saw me as the go-to because my older sister wouldn't do for them. She would like tell them like that was their she had good boundaries with them. She'd say, no, I'm not going to do that. And so they defaulted to me, who was like the pleasing child, who of course would step in and do the things that parents should have done. But even though I didn't feel secure, I did it. So I didn't feel I had much of a choice. And so something I learned now, at this age, is that why wasn't I saying no more? Like my sister did it. Why was I so quick to say, I'll do it, I'll take care, and took on that responsibility? And that continued. But what I think is interesting about our stories, and maybe this is different, you feel differently about it, is because of those experiences, I'm where I'm at.
mhm.
Like I think if I had more support, it would have been so much easier, or would it have been? Because I've done everything for my kids that I wanted done to me, and then I'm noticing a different pattern with them because they haven't had the same obstacles I did. Their ambition or their motivation is very different than mine. I mean, what do you think?
But I think one of the things is that, for example, for me, I don't think I was given the option to say no. I think it was just kind of expected. And again, it comes back to the cultural factor. You're the oldest female, you have to meet these requirements, right? One of the biggest challenge I think I encountered when I decided to move away for college. I was the first one in my entire family history to have gone to college and move away and gotten the master's. Obviously, other after that, others kind of followed. But the biggest challenge for me was not feeling the guilt that I'm not going to be there to help my family, not feeling that they're going to survive, because it's like, now who's going to do A, B, C, and D for the family, right? So I think for me, I think when I decided to move away for college, it was not because I wanted to be free it's something that I felt I needed to do for myself. And for the first time, put myself first. Being able to kind of not let fear more than anything, because I did not know nobody up in Monterey. I went to see the schools up there. My best friend was supposed to go with me at that time. Obviously, she chickened out and decided not to. And I remember the day before I was going to move up there, she goes, you know, you could always come back if you don't make it. We're not going to see you any less. And I'm like, in my mind, I was like, no, I'm going to make it. I don't care how I have to do it or anything like that. I didn't understand what homesick was, and I didn't really get homesick. Um, when when I when I found out, and this is one of the things that was interesting to me, when I found out that my grandfather had come to the U.S. with the Bracero program, and he actually ended up in Monterey, Salinas area. And when I found that story, I was like, oh my God, I have always felt a connection with him. And for me, I don't think I always had the option to be able to say no to anything. And the first time that when I remember my mom would plead me like, don't go. No, I'm like, no, I gotta go and I gotta do this for me. Was I scared? Yes. Did I feel like, you know, that things could happen? Yeah. But I'm like, you know what? I know that I'll make friends right away. I don't have a problem with that. I don't have any issues or anything like that. I'm like, I'll be fine. And I did. I survived 2 years up there. And those things I would never change, even though I had to, for the first time, tell my family no.
Mhm.
So,
I think another question I have is about how our values have shifted. When we're younger, we don't. realize we have choice or autonomy. And maybe for us culturally, we didn't think we could. And so what do you think you value most right now in this season of your life?
My own life, me being first.
Yeah, that's a big one. And I think after pushing myself and working so hard for so long, I think my motto now, like when I wake up every day, it's do something that makes me happy. Like, what's something that's going to make me happy today? And it can be the smallest thing or the biggest thing. Maybe I want to take the day off for me and go to Disneyland. Or maybe I just want to go to Starbucks and treat myself extra today. Whatever it is, I make sure that I do something that makes me happy. And if it's time, then I'll take it no matter what. So, yeah, I think that's just driving me right now is find my happy.
And that,
Yeah, go ahead,
sorry.
Patty.
Oh,
No, I was gonna say, and that's one of the things, ever since I became a supervisor, that's the thing that I keep always reinforcing on staff, that you have to take care of yourself
mhm.
because, work, we spend most of our time there, but we have to find joy in the things that we do outside. We have to find joy in things that we identify with. It might not be a popular thing that people might think that would be fun or things like that. But as long as you're happy, because at the end of the day, we only have to be happy with ourselves.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think because of the way I grew up, and as I mentioned earlier, I didn't feel I was connected to my siblings as I would have liked, and I was always seeking connection, always trying to please. My entire life, I've never really slowed down to enjoy my accomplishments. It was always like, what's next? What's next? What's next? And right now I really value time. And it's especially these last couple of years, I've slowed down a lot. But even my slow is still fast paced for most people. But I'm really tired of like achieve, get more certificates. And I think for a long time, I realize this now, I was doing it for, I don't know, to feel like accomplished or to feel like I look who I am, look what I've done. And it wasn't giving me the satisfaction that I really wanted, which is the connection. And so now I feel like I'm good enough, like I have enough. I believe strongly in what I do. I'm comfortable with myself. And so anything I do it because I really want to. Like right now, I want to focus on my kids. I really feel I missed out a lot of opportunities with them, when they were little because of all the achieving, and trying to provide for them. And now my daughter's 21, my son is 17, and I'm really slowing down to be with them. And they're the most beautiful kids. I still call them kids. But when I think of them, I can make myself cry, just how blessed I am to have them and who they are. And I could really get into it by thinking like, oh, I missed all these opportunities with them, but I'm not dwelling on that. I'm just focusing on now. Now I could just slow down and enjoy them differently, slowing down to be with my husband and do the things that he likes. He and I are two different people. And so just spending time and trying to get to like show more interest in the things that he's interested in, spending time with friends, like my real friends, friends that I choose to be with, not the ones that I kind of hung on to because they've been with me forever. And so just really evaluating the people that I bring into my circle. My circle is so much smaller now because my time is precious. And so if I give you time, then you know you're important to me because I really value that connection with you. So time is definitely my number one value right now.
You
But
know,
I
it's
think, sorry.
I was just going to say we're all talking about time, but the other thing I'm hearing from each one of us is choice. And
Mhm.
that's a big one, right? Like when I think about things that I have chosen for myself, that's where my passion is. That's really where my happy is, right? Because I have my daytime job, but this back here is my private practice. That's my after my daytime job. And people always say like, "Oh my God, how do you do that? Aren't you tired?" I'm like, "You know what? I'm choosing who I want to see in this space." right? It's horrible to say we're picking and choosing, but truly, like I have a certain group of people that I know that I can connect with and serve, and it just fills my cup at the end of the day. So I clock out of one job and I choose to come here, and I feel like I'm feeling like I'm just starting the day again. I don't know how else to describe it. It's like fresh and new, but it's
Hmm.
my choice. And that's the thing about Revive and Reset too, is that's another choice. And that choice is one that's intentional and makes me happy because of what it's doing for me and for everybody else. And so choosing to make that time, choosing to step into certain things that really fulfill and give meaning to us and the people around us, like that's also a value that I'm hearing just in different ways that comes out of all of us.
Hmm.
But Patty, I cut you off. What were you going to say?
No, and kind of going back with Raquel, I think a lot of people, and especially women, tend to focus a lot on our identifying success of what you accomplish at work, what you accomplish in your professional life. But sometimes some of the most rewarding accomplishments are the ones that you have with family, the ones that you have with your friends, because again, those are the people that are always going to be around you. And again, it's a choice. They are going to choose you and you're going to choose them. So that's one of the things that it's always very helpful to remember that success doesn't always have to be the yes. And people hear me say this, yes, we need money to survive, to travel and all that stuff. But again, the choice is what you decide to do on your own time.
Do we need money to travel? I'm coming across people that just get up and go without a plan, and they're like in Thailand, they're in China. I'm like, how do you do it? How do you do it? I think sometimes we just get stuck into like, this is the way you do life.
Mhm.
Mind you, those people don't have children, so that's different. I give myself that. I think I might be in a different country if I was just single. I'd be exploring right now.
Yeah. But yeah, and that's something that we have to kind of keep in mind that success might mean something very different for everybody. And it doesn't always have to be, and a lot of women, I think they kind of lose themselves in the process. Sometimes when people are trying, like Candace, our speaker last month, she kind of talked a little bit about how she lost herself kind of climbing the corporate ladder. And sometimes climbing doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to give you happiness. So it's basically reassessing what makes you happy. We can't control sometimes the people that we are around or the people that we might work with or some our family or friends and things like that. Again, you have a choice at that moment. If you want to hang around them, make the time, or put those boundaries that sometimes culturally we've been instilled not to really put because if we say no or anything like that, we're seen like we're not being supportive.
Yeah,
Patty,
I
what
think
are
it's,
you?
oh, go
Oh,
ahead.
go ahead.
No, no,
Go
no, go
ahead,
ahead.
Flor. I was going to switch topics, but go ahead.
No, I was just going to go back to success and say it is really how we want to define it for ourselves, but there's so much influence, like you were saying, Patty, that comes into it. And I think for me, it's always been just a reminder of like to quiet the noise around me and really define what success is for myself. Like, where do I want to be in 5 years? Not where do other people want me in 5 years, right?
Hmm.
And there's so much cultural influence in that too, because, from my parents' perspective, I could be the president of the United States, but if I don't get married and have kids, I have not succeeded in life because
Mm,
culturally that should have happened so long ago, right?
mm.
And so it's a matter of just quieting that noise and saying, well, but that wasn't my path, right? And my success is defined a different way. And so looking at those influences around you, but also looking at what do I want from me and how do I define success, no matter what other people may think about it. Because you may have this wonderful idea of starting a new business or stepping into a new venture, and people around you might think, oh my gosh, what are you thinking? Like, why would you do that? But if that venture makes you happy, if you believe in it and have that passion, it's gonna grow in spades and be exactly what you wanted it to be. And that's I've seen that time and time again. So
I was thinking about Patty when you were talking about what your focus is now. I was curious about your passion. You have a lot of different interests, but what are you most passionate about outside of work, or business? What like sparks passion in you?
Well, I think the biggest thing is because I can't identify one specific thing that I'm passionate about. I know I love to travel, so I do that. Obviously, in the last year, you guys have seen me, I got involved with soccer and I really enjoy that. But to say that I have one particular thing as a passion, I can't really define that. I think I just have a lot of different interests that bring me a lot of joy and happiness.
Hmm.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I, it's exactly word for word how I would say it. Like I can't imagine something that would be that passionate for me, but I have so much interests, right? Things that I want to do. So yeah, passionate's such a strong word.
It is a strong word. And when I think about that, I think about like my entire life, I've been obsessed with my health, but my outwardly, like my physical appearance, um, being, particularly being thin. My sisters and my mom were always very slender, like zeros, size twos, and I was always heavier. But if you think about heavier compared to a zero and a two, anything's heavier. But I wasn't that heavy, but I was always obsessed with my physical appearance. And that obsession has followed me through my adulthood, um, which has caused a lot of, issues with my image or my self-esteem or even self-worth sometimes. But lately, that obsession with my image has become more to like passion for self-care and more about because of my where I'm at in life with my body shifting, and and menopause and all that stuff that comes with women when you hit a certain age. My passion is self-care, but differently. Not like just like breathing or, meditating, but really focusing on my general health. And because I keep thinking about, again, my focus is my children and enjoying them as they're getting to like partnering up and then eventually maybe having children. I want to be able to be in a good place to play with them, take them to different adventures. And that does require me to take care of my body. So I've noticed my passion has what used to be an obsession has become, I'm more passionate about self-care internally. And I'm not gonna lie, I'm hoping that internal care would like show outwardly too. Maybe I'll drop a few pounds. It's been really hard in this phase of my life, but that's been, I think I'm more passionate about feeling healthy and grounded from the inside out, which is really hard. It's really hard to stay because you do need consistency. But I keep like in my mind, I keep thinking of my future grandchildren or just being growing old with my kids. Like I saw my mother last night and she's struggling to walk around, and she's young. And so I think about, okay, I definitely want to be in a place where I could enjoy my children as they grow older and what comes with that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that, you know, sometimes we might be like for me, passionate about something specifically, but I guess what I'm passionate about is me being happy. I think if I were to make a shift, making sure that I'm living my best life and because I always kind of say there's gonna be a day that I might not be able to walk, I might not be able to do a lot of things. And I don't want to be an old lady and thinking, oh, I wish I would have done this. But then going back to the whole thing that I said at the beginning, like not letting fear, and not being able to say like, oh, because I was afraid of flying that I stopped going, you know. Am I afraid of things? Yes. But I try just to push through. I remember the first time when I did my first Spartan race when Raquel would say that I was crazy. One of the things that I remember, one of the first obstacles that we had to climb up a wall, and I'm like, what am I doing here? I'm afraid of heights. And I just had to push through because I'm like, I had to come down. So I think, that's one of the things that maybe I could define passion as just being
Wait,
passionate with
Patty,
the,
what's that? Was that the video I have of you going over that fence
I don't
or that
know, there are
wall?
so many videos
Yeah,
of
well,
me.
I want to point out that you did it and we were all there cheering you on.
Yeah,
You had a
there's
community.
a few videos from all those fun races that I did. People helping me get through, but I did it. But I'll tell you guys something. I remember when I did a half marathon once, and I don't tend to train to things, or I just tend to kind of do them. And it was in Huntington Beach. I was getting close to my one of the last miles, and I'm never gonna forget this. Where again, going back to what we have choices, right? There were two ladies. Um, I'm not gonna say ethnicity or anything, but there were two ladies, and I was a little bit heavier, and they're like, their comment was like, I can't believe I don't know how fat people could run or something like that. And when I heard that, I was like, the spicy in me, I was like, wanted to stop and tell them all. But I'm
Mhm.
like, do I just waste my energy that or just getting to the finish line, right? Because I'm like, it's not worth giving them that energy. So I just kind of passed them and I just tried to run as fast as I could until I got to the finish line. Then when I get there, my friends that are there that had already finished the race, and when I told them, they were like, "Where are they? Where are they?" Because again, people are gonna be people, and we have a choice. Do I react to them? Do I take their energy, or do I just kind of keep pushing through?
Okay, but I
So
really want the end of that story to be you stood there at the end of the finish line and waited for them to cross to congratulate them for finishing the race. Like I really like that's the story I want. Did you do it?
no, I was too tired, and they were waiting with donuts for me already. So, and
Good.
then one time when I did the San Francisco half marathon, it was not even the first mile and it was dark. And I remember my foot went into a pothole. I went flying. And the officer said, um, uh, you're done. I'm like, no, I'm not. I just got all my stuff. And I'm like, I came to finish this race. I'm gonna freaking finish. And finally, when some of my friends saw me, my knee was bleeding because I took a good fall. But again, one of the things that sometimes people tell me is like I'm very determined. Um, I tend to, again, even though I might be afraid, I'm not, I try not to show it and I just kind of push through.
Yeah. And I appreciate that like perseverance, right? Like it's you can cross that in so many different areas of our life where, emotionally we need to like pick up the pieces and move on. Or your story of physically, you got to like you're determined to push through and like make your way through those challenges, right? And how do we do that? We have to get up and do that every day. Because when you're talking about that, I think about my daytime job and how sometimes I just take such a mental pounding and that impacts me like emotionally too, of just like, oh my gosh, like what a hard day, right? But I got to get up and I got to go do it again. And how do I find the strength to push through that and get to that finish line or to that whatever the end, piece is? And that's part of why I want to create, again, just going back to that community, right? Because in those moments, in those hardest times, I rely on the people around me to just help me, just hold me up for a second while I get my footing again, because that was a rough one, right? Or pushing me on and cheering me on. Like I just feel like that sense of community has been, again, it's followed me all my life, but now that I've created it for myself, I rely on it so much, and it's such a powerful thing. So, yeah.
And that's the thing with Revive and Reset. Again, like we have kind of said, we've been trying to build a community, help women share some of their stories of the things that they had to overcome to become the business owner, the risks that they have had to take at times. And also, that no matter what, they're still pushing through any obstacle that still keeps coming their way.
Yeah, but it goes back to what Fleur said about building that community intentionally too. There's a lot of people. I mean, that's how we select our speakers, is we look at people that we go, oh, I like her energy. I like
Mhm.
what she has to share or how she got there. Because that's actually, and I've shared that's from the beginning when I first thought about Revive and Reset, is I was so in need of finding women. I have plenty of male friends, but women that were supportive of other women. I mean, my previous career, 17 years, 10 of those being in leadership, I didn't have a good experience with many women in leadership. There was constant mistrust or like scheming. And I hate using that word because it's a strong word, but that's what it felt like. Because I would go in, remember my childhood, I was seeking female connection. And so I go in with like, hi, want to be friends? I wouldn't say it that way, but that was my energy. Like, oh, let's hang out. You're cool. And then I would like overshare maybe, or maybe it was too, now I know it's more trusting. I was very trusting. And through different interactions, I learned that I could not show all my cards, that I had to be much more guarded. And that's what my male companions would tell me. You're too open. You need to hold our cards close to your chest. And that didn't make sense to me because I thought, like, if I have some information to help you, why wouldn't I share it? Like, I don't see you as competition. Like, if we go out for the job, and I've had many friends where we've gone out for the same job, I wish them luck. Like, let's talk about, like, let's coach each other through these questions. Because I figure like everyone has an opportunity. I'll have mine. If I don't get it, it wasn't meant to be. I believe in that. But that I realized quickly that wasn't the same. And so like I would get really and I know this is my own stuff, I would get really hurt by friendships I thought were friendships and they weren't. But I had to get better at picking my friends, and I had to get better at picking who I brought into my circle. Um, and that I could trust, be vulnerable with. And so all the women we've selected have something like that we saw in them where they weren't like hoarding information. They were willing to share their experience, be vulnerable enough to share what didn't work, where they might have like in quotes failed. And I think that makes a difference when you find that type of woman that is okay and just showing up and being there for one another.
Well, like Flor from our first speaker, how
Mhm.
she kind of shared and said, I feel she likes to share her information and how she has shared some tips with us as well, and how she kind of talked about like she feels there's room for everybody and there's no reason to be competing. And I think that's one of the biggest challenges. And I think we see that more among women, where we feel that we have to be competing, that we feel that, you know, um, no, I can't share this because they're gonna beat me to it. And that's why when Raquel approached me regarding Revive and Reset, I'm always about trying to empower others and trying to kind of share what I have to help, if possible, avoid some of the mistakes that I made professionally. And that's part of the reason that I decided to kind of jump. Was I scared to join this adventure? Yes, especially when it's like the financial component, right? And it's like, okay, I'm gonna just take a shot at it. And through this process, I think that we have all worked well together. We kind of balance each other. And obviously, Raquel is the only one that knows why she chose who she chose and things like that. But when she approached me, I was like, oh, yeah, I guess, yeah, I could do that. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna have to learn different things. One of them has been trying to figure out social media. And then when they gave me the financial thing, I'm like, there's a reason I did not want to go into accounting. But again, I'm not gonna say no, and I'm gonna just kind of push through. And I have them to support me, so it doesn't make it that difficult.
Yeah, there's so many things that just get in our way. And one of those things being ourselves, right? Sometimes we get in our own way. It's like, let's not make other women get in our way too, right? Like, let's all support each other. Let's all be here for each other. But one of the things that again keeps me here is I like to surround myself with strong women, strong in different ways, right? So being able to step into a place and own it, right? With your confidence, being able to set a goal and work toward it and get it, no matter the obstacles, right? I thrive off of that kind of environment because I am much of an extrovert. Like I take the energy that's in the room. Well, that's an empath, but like I like to be in this space where there's a lot of that kind of energy and I absorb that energy, right? And so I want to be around women like that can keep me in that headspace of confidence and strength and not being afraid to say what's on your mind or not being afraid to advocate or stand up for yourself. Like that's definitely what keeps me here. But I am curious, Raquel, why did you pick me? Why did you pick Patty?
Well, okay, so let's transition because I would be curious to hear what do you think how would your closest friend describe you?
Patty, you want to take that first?
Yeah, I'll take it. I actually
Okay.
struggle with that because it depends what group of friends you have. But I think one of them some of them would say like very determined, very outspoken, and doesn't really care of others' opinions.
Okay.
Nice.
What about you, Flora?
Um, so I think, first of all, I love my friends because they love me unconditionally with all of my flaws because I have many. But they would say that I'm funny, that I'm supportive, and I'm always there for them. They know they can, if it's been 6 months or 6 days or 6 hours, you call me, you need me, I am there. So dependable. Um, what else would they say? Um, I think they would say successful, but we all define success differently. But probably the last thing would be independent, like just being able to hold my own and do what I got to do. So,
I was thinking of that I hate these kind of questions like, what would someone say about you? And so I had to really think about it. And the first person that came to mind was a friend, a colleague of mine. We become friends. And he would say, Raquel, you don't suffer fools. And I didn't know what that meant. Like I wasn't sure what that meant. And I asked him, I said, what do you mean? And he's like, well, he goes, you don't put up with BS. You call it out as it is. He goes, you're really strong and you're confident and you're someone who knows what she wants and you don't put up with BS. And at first I was kind of like, I don't suffer full. So I had to Google it and I asked ChatGPT, like, what does this mean? But you know what? He's not wrong. I don't have a lot of patience for it, and this is going to sound like really abrupt ignorance. And what I mean by that is I honestly do believe people choose to not know. They can choose to know or do better, and they choose not to. And I sometimes see that as lack or avoiding accountability. And again, that goes back to my upbringings where I had no choice but to show up and to do. And so when someone says, I don't know how, or I can't do that, or that's too hard, I feel like, are you kidding me? You just need to do it. But that was something that I was trained to do very early on. So when I go back and I think about what he said, Raquel doesn't set for fools, I said I could see why it come across that way. But if someone were to ask me, like, what's something people might not immediately see about me in the inside, it's that I really want people to succeed. I really want to help others and be supportive of others. And I'm actually very sensitive. If you don't know that, you didn't hear me say that, you don't know me, you would think, oh, she's very strong and confident. But I'm actually really sensitive. And I do want to, like support people if I can. And so even though I might come across as like serious or reserved, it's probably because I'm thinking about, what can I do to help this person that I care about? Or even if I don't know you that well, if I hear you share an experience and I feel like I could help you, I'm constantly thinking like, what can I do? You know, so I really do I also want to take in like when my friend said Raquel doesn't suffer fools, he also taught me something. As I shared with them different experiences, he says, Raquel, sometimes you have to lean in through the lens of love. And the first time he said this, I kind of rolled my eyes. I was like, come on. He goes, but the moment I started really leaning into different situations through the lens of love, there was so much more compassion and much more patience. And so that's my shift. Like and that does align with me. Um, but I had to start thinking about how, like, instead of my old way of being, where I just think people are avoiding accountability or they should just know better, I'm now looking at it from a lens of love.
Well, I think also like going back to the thing about our upbringing, I know that sometimes I might come out like I don't care, I don't have feelings or anything like that. But and underneath, yeah, and I think it goes back to the whole thing. I don't have tolerance for ignorance. Um, and then it goes back to accountability, right? That sometimes you feel like you might be working harder than others, and instead of, and I think your style and my style are kind of almost the same. That if we don't know it, we're gonna figure it out. We're gonna ask. We're gonna look into it. When you have other people that they just keep saying, "Oh, I don't know, I don't know, I haven't been trained or I haven't done this." It's like, in my mind, it's like, get your shit together and figure it out, right? But again, it's one of those things that unfortunately I don't have very patience. And one of the things that might stress me out the most is when I have that because I have to control myself not to blur out what I want to really blur out. And that's the thing that kind of stresses me out. Like, okay, how can I do this without really getting myself into trouble?
Mhm. You know what? It's funny because when I think about this conversation, I think about myself. There's this Instagram reel where it's this little computer that comes out of a van, and it's coming out and it's like two batteries on the floor, and then it like undoes the little latch in the back, takes out its own battery, so it literally like dies, and then it falls back on those two batteries, and then it comes back to life. I was like, oh my God, that's so me because I don't want to ask for help. I don't like asking for help. I will die and come back to life before I ask somebody for help. I was like, oh my God, that's so me. And I saw it and I started sending it to all my friends. They're like, yeah, yeah, that's you. So, it just reminds me of it's okay to ask for help sometimes, but
Yeah.
also the strength of like I can do this myself. It's a balance, right? Of when do I ask for help and when do I seek out those answers for myself because I know I can do it. And that's kind of what I'm hearing from all of us, right? Like
Yeah.
we look
Well,
at
and
it
I
as
think the lesson learned, Floor, is that I know I could do it, but I don't have to.
right. Yeah. Yes, there is that. Absolutely.
So
And
going
that's
back,
like the big,
Raquel,
what's that?
why did you choose us?
I mean,
Because we have
for
to.
for exactly what you said, I needed women around me that were one going to be number one supportive, right? Willing to take a risk. Patty, when you say you're determined, so is Floor, you know, and there's that balance in characters where Patty, you're like, let's do this. You have like that energy, that pump, that motivator. Floor is the reality. Like, okay, guys, let's bring it back. Let's reset. Let's look at these options. Because I'm the type of person that feels like I don't have to know it all. But if I bring in the right group to help me build something wonderful, it will be successful. And so it's exactly what you said. I wrote it down. And I think Patty's funny too. I think we all have in our own styles a bit of funniness, right? Reliability, dependability. I like that you both aren't afraid to share your opinion. One thing that's hard for me, especially in leadership, is it's intimidating to be a leader to people that they're reporting to you. They often feel like they can't be, vulnerable and share their opinions. When we really, I know here, the three of us are open to feedback, but some, aren't willing to do that because they're nervous. And that's what I appreciate of both of you is that you're willing to say, Raquel, yeah, that's a good idea. And, what about this? or what about that? And so that's what I appreciate, are people who are willing to be in this with me and not just like tell me these are great ideas, let's just do it. But you're also willing to stand up and hold your own. And that's kind of the energy that I want around me.
Yeah.
Why did you
Just,
guys agree? Turn it around.
well, I'm looking at retirement. I need something to keep me busy, to be honest. It's like, oh, okay, we could start this. By the time it's all settled and things like that, I'll be retired and I could just do this.
Yeah. Yeah.
For me, it's that running theme. It's that community. Like I really believe in what we do. And just like you, Raquel, like my time is also precious in terms of how I have to dedicate it to different things between my family, my friends, my work, my dog, right? All the things that are important to me. And I had to sit back and say, okay, whatever I invest my time in, it has to mean something to me. And when I think about what this is and what we're trying to do, sometimes it gets hard. Sometimes, I get frustrated, or sometimes like, oh, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I have the time. But I go back to, why did I choose this? Because I knew going into it, all those things, nothing changed in my life. And I have to just step back again and say, why am I here? And what is my intention? If it is still the same in terms of believing in this and wanting this, not just for myself and what it does for me, but what it could do for other people, um, especially thinking back to the times when I could have really benefited from this, or when I could have really wanted this, that's what keeps me here. And of course, obviously, it's important to have the right partners for it too, right? Like if you guys didn't have the same motivation and the dedication and the drive, I would be out, because again, I feed off of the energy. So if the
Mhm.
energy among the three of us is we're all too busy and we're not really in it and we don't feel it, I'm going to be the first one out, right? And so I think that's what's important, is not just my belief and intention and passion. There's the passion word, not just that, but the partners. Because really, if it wasn't for you two and how you are, I don't think I would have stayed. So.
Well, I can't believe how fast this hour has gone. We have about 5 minutes left. Before we wrap up, is there anything that you wanted to share?
I
Last
think
thoughts,
that
Patty.
I think the biggest thing, you know, that we are hoping that Revive and Reset will kind of do is kind of build that community for you and kind of learn from other, and that's why we are focusing on our Zoom series to showcase women that have overcome a lot of things, even when they have been scared to life, that, they're putting everything into their business or whatever they're trying to kind of launch. It's always going to be scary, but keep in mind that if we allow fear to continue to dictate what we're going to do or how we're going to function, it's going to handicap us. And everybody has so much potential, so much that they could give and share. And again, it's not about competition. It's not a who's better or who's not. But the biggest thing is just think about what makes you happy and what you want to accomplish, not what others expect you to accomplish.
Yeah.
And I think my last comment is just my hope for today specifically was to get to know the women behind the brand, behind the business, right? So that as you get to know us, you understand why we're here and what we want, why we want to do what we do. That it just continues to build that community, to continue to motivate each other and help each other succeed. To what you said, Raquel. So.
Yeah, yeah, that's definitely like the messaging I want to get across is, the different events that we plan are all focused on building community and also women promoting women, which is why we're doing the Zoom series. Our next speaker, Claudia Flores from Yolosito Wellness, is another beautiful human who has started her own business. And we really are excited to present her and what she's doing. She's doing some really neat things. And so it's not just about like our workshops, is also, as we bring people forward, how can we help you build your thing and then help promote your thing? I want to attend future business events. that are created by the women who are coming to Revive and Reset activities. I want to see you succeed. And so this is what Revive and Reset is for me. It means a lot that you are here today listening and learning about us. And then hopefully we'll see you in our next month's presentations or one of our events. Yeah.
Well, thank
Thank
you
you everyone
everybody
for
for
being here.
joining us, and hopefully, provide us any feedback or anything like that. We are always open to, or even if you know some speakers that you guys would like us to bring on, let us know and we'll reach out to them. Have a wonderful Sunday.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.